Thank you for tuning in to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. In this video, I'm going to get personal, meaning I'm going to tell you something that has occurred in my life and share with you my own personal epiphanies about this issue. So, maybe some of the white people listening do not know, but there's an internal war because black people have been conditioned to hate themselves. There's an internal war in the black community, and that war and the sides are lighter skinned or mixed race blacks versus darker skinned pure race blacks. And each side hates the other side. And I don't mean like they just don't want to walk down the street holding hands. I mean they actually hate each other. Let me get personal. My family's very proud. I come from a very proud family. And when I say proud, I mean we are pretty much snobs. Most of my family is pretty well off, every one of them. Almost every one of them. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, had 15 children. Almost all of them are at CEO levels or above. I have judges, lawyers who are judges, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, business owners, entrepreneurs, all of them. And my particular family, my immediate family, were diplomats. So we just fit right along in the success of the family. There was a recent doll test documentary that came out. And if you don't know what that means, a doll test is the test where they presented dolls to children of various ages, the sort of like kindergarten or first grade age, then they went to like the middle school age, and then they went to the like freshman and high school age, and they presented them. The very first one was just presented to very young children. Later on they did the doll test to the various ages. So the test presents a bunch of dolls that are identical to each other. They are only different in the skin color of the doll. So it's an identical doll, but the skin color is different. The original one only had black and white. You know, we're talking about the 50s or something like that. I think it was in the 50s. Black and white. And they asked the children various questions. And the questions usually involve an answer of who's good and who's bad. So the original one was who's the good and who's bad. Well, the young children mostly didn't have any sort of racist sort of views, but they had an inkling of, when they asked, who do people say? Well, they can say, oh, yeah, I can recognize that. People say the black doll would be bad. When they got upwards in ages, they would ask, like, who would you rather sit by? Who would you want to be friends with? Who's the nice person? Who's the smart person? And invariably, the kids of all races would pick the white doll. And I mean the white doll. So in the later studies, they did various colors, like, and they're just various shades of earth tones. So ranging from a off-white sort of brownish. White people aren't actually white. An off-white sort of brownish, going all the way to dark black. So as far as black people are really concerned, there's the pure race West African black or East African black, right on the coast. Those those Africans are the dark, dark black Africans. Just for your information, real Africans in the continent, I lived in several countries in Africa. Real Africans vary in shades. Even pure-blooded Africans, the various tribes and clans throughout the continent vary in shades. Not every African across the board is the pure, dark, East or West African black color. You have blonde-haired or red-headed, lighter black Africans. And that's their color. That's their actual color. They've been looking like that for centuries, thousands of years. White people have never even come into the picture as far as that's concerned. So there is no mixing of the races there. So first of all, black people need to understand their own history, culture, and anthropology, which is severely lacking in this country. So in the doll test, the last 3 shades are of black people. And even at that, the last 3 shades did not get any sort of positive reaction from the children. This last one showed pictures, situations, and they would have a white person and a black person in the picture. They would show the picture of one boy standing and another boy on his hands and knees and his books, school books, strewn across the floor as if he has dropped his books or something like this. So that's the scenario. So they say when the white person is standing and the black person is on the ground, they say, what do you think is going on here or what's happening? And they would say, oh, I think the white guy is offering to help the black guy who has dropped his books. Now, they switched the races or the skin colors of the two guys. Remember, they're identical looking guys. The only difference is the skin color, right? So the black guy is standing, and now the white guy is on the white boy is on his knees with the book strewn on the floor. And they said, what do you think of this scenario? They said, oh, I think the black guy pushed the white guy down and made him lose his books. Back to back, same picture. How's that even possible? Now, this is from white kids and black kids. You know, they asked Asians and Latinos or what have you and all those sort of people. But of course, even they don't identify anything inside of this whole racial thing. It's still white versus black. It's not any, and the rest of them are just invisible. Asians, Latinos, just completely invisible. It's just still white versus black. In that study, a young black teenager, so she's maybe 13 or 14 years old, or 14 or 15 years old. She said, and they talked about interracial dating. She said, I could marry a white guy. So she's not talking about dating and anything. She's saying all the full-fledged, I could marry a white guy. But, and this came out of her mouth, if my brother brought home a white girl and said he was dating her, the entire family, including me, the girl, would kick his butt. He is not allowed to do that. And here's where I want to get personal. I got flack for living. I'm not talking about dating. I'm not talking about marrying. I'm not talking about anything like that. I got hatred heaped upon me for living in countries where the majority was white and where a super majority of white people. We're talking about 90%. I was in countries where I was like the only black face for miles and miles around. I got hatred put upon me. hanging around all those white people, blah, 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 right? They also said, if I ever brought home a white girl or even a light-skinned black girl, meaning she is not a pure race, that I could kiss goodbye attending any family functions. And this, of course, trickles down to my parents and my mother, who then made it personal and right up front and said, I will never tolerate you dating outside of your race at all. And don't you dare bring home even a light-skinned black girl. Don't you dare, ever. You know, the whole I'll cut you off from the will and blah, 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 you won't get money and so forth and so on. It got to the point where I no longer found white women or even light-skinned girls attractive whatsoever at all. It didn't even register in my brain that I could find them attractive. And I was hanging with friends in college, and some like supermodel white girl walks by, and all of my friends are going goo goo and gaga over her and blah, blah, blah. And I'm standing there like a Vulcan, just like, she's only interesting looking. You know, it took me some time to even piece together, because, you know, my friends would ask me, well, who do you find attractive? What's your type of girl? And I'd be like, I want a blue, black, berry, black, pure-blooded black girl. That's the only thing I find attractive. And they were like, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, it took me some time to figure out even where that registered, where that came from. And I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I don't know if you've noticed. But it took me some time to figure out why I was that way, because I used to model, and a lot of models, believe it or not, are white, including girls. So it registered that, yes, this is supposedly the ideal of beauty in American society, that these white girls are the ideal of beauty. But I still don't find them attractive. So it registered that they're supposed to be beautiful, but I don't find them attractive. And then I started questioning why I don't find them attractive. And then finally it dawned on me, it's because I have been indoctrinated to think this way, to feel that white people are inferior to me, that light-skinned black girls are inferior to me and not worthy of me dating, and definitely not worthy of me marrying. I looked deep into all of that and finally had an epiphany to connect the dots and see where that was coming from. I don't really experience hate at all, because I'm a super positive kind of guy, happy guy. You know, I sort of like walk into a room and, rainbows and glitter comes out, and, cigars are passed around, and, you know, money flows, flows out of my butt, you know. So I'm not a hateful kind of guy, but I just did not white people or light-skinned girls didn't register with me. So I looked at all of that and finally concluded where it was coming from. And now I can say that I find beauty in everybody, all races, Asians. There's a lot of people who still will say they're open-minded to blah, 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 but will say, oh, I don't find Asians attractive at all, not even remotely. I find beauty in every race, color, creed, what have you. I find beauty in everybody. Even fat people. You know, there's a big hatred against fat people. And I find beauty even in fat people, if that's the lowest of our society, right? We all hate fat Americans, lazy fat Americans. I find beauty in even in fat people. I was a personal trainer at one time, and I really hated fat people. So that, for me, was a big, huge step forward and even understanding that and even coming to terms with that. I find beauty in everybody. And I could say that I would feel comfortable dating any race and marrying any race. My thing, of course, with these videos is to get black people to come to graduate to my level, but I think the very first level is to have black people love themselves. I started out this video saying that there is an internal war in the black community, light-skinned blacks, mixed race blacks versus the pure race blacks. And the very first grade or first level that black people have to graduate to is to love themselves and stop this internal warfare. And for those people who say, "Oh, that's the you're taking, you're being dramatic, you're over dramatizing that," it's not. It really is not. I really am not. It is just that serious that black people are hating on black people. You have nothing to do but look around YouTube to even see this. They even have hashtags now. So it's hashtag Team Dark Skin, hashtag Team Light Skin. It's just that serious. Black people have been conditioned to hate each other. So my first step is I want to get black people to come together to love themselves, to understand that, hey, this person, they might be light-skinned, but they actually had nothing to do with that. And you shouldn't hate them for that. And for the light-skinned black people to not hate dark people and say everything about a dark person or a pure-blooded African, pure-blooded African American is ugly and hideous and blah blah blah, and hate their hair and so forth and so on, and then have this own internal hatred of black people where they hate their hair, they hate their skin color, they hate where they came from, they hate Africa. You have black people who hate Africa, don't know anything about Africa, but they hate Africa. We have to wake up. There is no white person who says, my ancestors are from Germany, I hate Germans. There's no white person here in America whose ancestry is French and they say, I hate French people. That's crazy. That's idiotic. You're black and you say you hate Africa. What do you know about Africa that you hate Africa? So I'm not even talking about black people graduating to my level of love everybody, because I know there's already step one that is completely lost. Love each other. I've mentioned many times that I am a Pan-Africanist. That means that the black man has to be independent of the Europeans economically and be on equal terms economically and socially. The very first step of that is that the black man has to identify that he is black and that he loves himself, which means you can't have a team dark skin or a team light skin. That is moronic. There is no such thing as good hair, bad hair. Natural hair is beautiful. The natural hair of French people is beautiful. The natural hair of Eastern Africans is beautiful. The natural hair of Western Africans is beautiful. You don't have to process your hair and destroy your scalp to try and look like a French woman or dye your hair blonde. It's crazy. And dye your hair blonde with the attitude that, oh, now I'm pretty. You weren't pretty before with your natural hair? It's self-hatred. If you think your natural hair is ugly, by definition, that is self-hatred. It might take you more time to do your hair, to comb your hair, to pick your hair out and make a nice afro. But that's just the breaks of living. Think about fat people, what they have to go through. It takes them time to do anything, right? What if they want to lose weight? That takes time, and that takes months to do. And you're complaining about taking an extra 15 minutes to do your hair. You still, even when you perm your hair or burn your scalp to death, it still takes you time to do your hair. But you don't realize that. You have to love yourself. You have to come to grips with your race has nothing to do with anything, and you need to love the person. Anyway, tell me what you think about that, and thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show.